The words stayed with her long after they left the clearing, a seed of determination taking roots in her heart. The following weeks in Kintoro passed with an air of complacency. The harvest had been bountiful, and the villagers celebrated with feasts and dances. Yet, amidst the joy, subtle cracks began to form. At the river bank one afternoon, Emeka and his friends lounged beneath a tall palm tree. They were young men of the village, full of strength but lacking the patience their elders often extol. "Why do we let the groove dictate for us?" Emeka asked, tossing a stone into the water. His tone was mocking, but a hint of defiance lingered beneath it. His closest friend defying smirked. "Because the elders say so. They fear ghosts in the trees." The group laughed, their voice carrying across the river. "They are stuck in the past," Emeka continued, standing and spreading his arms. "Look around, the land is ours. The spirits haven't shown themselves in generations. Why should we bow to them?" Nearby, Chioma overheard their conversation as she filled her clay pot with water. She turned to face them, her brow furrowed. "The spirits don't need to show themselves to remind us of their power," she said, her voice firm. "Have you forgotten the stories?" Emeka scoffed, brushing her off with a wave of his hand. "Stories for children. If the groove is so powerful, why hasn't it stopped us from taking woods and animals from its edges?" Chioma frowned, clutching her pot tightly. "Because the spirits are patient, Emeka. But even patience has limits." Emeka's grin widened, his tone turning condescending. "Maybe you should stick to weaving baskets, Chioma, and leave real questions to men." Kelechi, who had been nearby, stepped forward, his fist clenched. "Watch your tongue, Emeka. You are do well to listen to Chioma." Emeka laughed again, but his gaze flickered with unease. He turned back to his friends, dismissing the argument. That evening, the elders held a council meeting in the square. The younger villagers gathered at the edges, listening to Elder Obi address the crowd. "The grove of whispers had been good to us," he began, his voice resonant despite his age. "But we must remember to honor it. Some among us," his eyes briefly flicked to Emeka, "have grown careless. The spirits may forgive, but they don't forget." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some nodded in agreement, but others, particularly the younger villagers, exchanged skeptical glances. Nana stood, his weathered face lined with frustration. "The arrogance of youth will be our undoing. They laughed at tradition, mocking what they don't understand." A younger man, Chike, interrupted. "Perhaps it's time we question these old ways. The land is ours now. Why should we live in fear of invisible spirits?" Gaps erupted, and Elder Obi raised his hand for silence. "Questioning is not wrong," Obi said carefully. "But dismissing wisdom is dangerous. The grove had protected us for generations. Do not test its patience." After the meeting, Chioma sat outside her home, gazing at the grove in distance. Kelechi joined her, his expression troubled. "Do you think they will listen?" he asked. Chioma shook her head. "No. People like Emeka and Chike are too stubborn. They only learn through consequences." Kelechi sighed. "I hope the consequences aren't too harsh." Chioma said nothing, but a growing unease settled in her chest. Unbeknownst to Chioma, Emeka wasn't ready to let go of his frustration. Later that evening, he gathered a small group of like-minded villagers at the edge of the grove. "We can prove all this talk of spirits and curses is nonsense," he said, his voice low but insistent. "If we show them there's nothing to fear, they will stop worshipping the grove like it's some kind of god." The others hesitated. "What are you suggesting?" one of them asked. "We will cut down one of the trees," Emeka replied, his eyes gleaming with defiance. "Just a small one, enough to show that nothing will happen." Though some were uneasy, a few nodded in agreement. They followed Emeka into the grove under the cover of darkness, axes in hand. As Emeka's group hacked at the tree, the grove seemed to come alive. The air grew heavy, and an eerie silence fell over the forest. Then a low resonant hum began to rise, like a distant drumbeat. "What's happening?" one of the villagers whispered, his voice trembling. The tree they had been cutting began to bleed a thick sap-like substance that glowed faintly in the dark. Whispers filled the air, growing louder and more chaotic. Emeka's confidence faltered, but he forced a laugh. "It's just the wind," he said. "Keep going." But before anyone could move, the ground beneath them began to shift. Roots emerged, twisting and writhing like snakes. The villagers screamed, dropping their axes and fleeing in terror. By the time Emeka and his group returned to the village, the entire community was awake, drawn by their shouts and panicked expressions.